Hi everyone, I'm Ben Gonzalez and this is TDI. Today we're going to be talking about the different types of auto insurance, terms you may hear when you're out shopping and you weren't quite sure what they meant. We're going to help you learn about those terms. And joining us today is Nicole Beal from our property and casualty area. Nicole, what's the first thing that consumers should think about when they're out shopping for auto insurance?
Sure. So the first thing is it's not all about price. A lot of people want to, get the best deal, and that's great. You should shop around, try to find a good rate for yourself, but don't cut coverage to get that good price. A lot of companies offer different things, different options, different limitations. Just know what you're buying.
Okay, so you got to think about your budget, but also think about the coverage that you're purchasing.
Exactly.
The law does require all drivers to have, at the minimum, liability. But I think there's some confusion there about what that actually covers. So what does liability cover?
So liability covers you if you're at fault in an accident. It's going to pay the other person for their injuries and for the damage to their car. So say, you're driving and you sideswipe someone, you didn't know they were in your blind spot and you hit them.
That happens.
All the time. Unfortunately, all the time. So your liability coverage is going to pay for that person's car to get that person's car fixed. It's going to get them into a rental car, and it's going to pay for their injuries too.
And the law provides minimums for each accident, right? So what are those minimums?
So those minimums are, it's $25,000 for property damage. That's the damage to their car or other structures if you happen to hit something else. Then it's $30,000 for the injuries to the other person, up to a total of $60,000 for that entire accident.
So you may hear those numbers referred to as, is it 25 or 20?
Usually it's 30, 60, 25 is what you might hear, and that's
30,
what those
60,
stand
25.
for.
So are those minimums enough for the average person, or should you consider going higher than that?
Definitely recommend going higher, even though no insurance is worse than minimum limits. So if minimum limits is what you can afford, that's better than nothing. But usually it doesn't cost a few more dollars to double those limits. And if you think about, what if that car you sideswept was a Tesla? That $25,000, not going to go very far.
Right.
So we definitely want to recommend increasing those as far as you can. Consider what you can afford.
Again, it's a combination of what you can afford versus what you're buying there. So that covers somebody else's car that I've damaged, but liability doesn't do anything for my vehicle, correct?
That's correct.
So what do I get to cover my car?
So usually what you purchase is collision and comprehensive coverage. Collision coverage kind of does what it says. It pays for your car if it's damaged from colliding with anything. So,
Okay.
And then comprehensive coverage covers anything else. So that covers
Anything else?
things out of your control. Maybe not anything else, but it covers things like theft, and it covers things like hail.
Non-accident kind of things
yes,
that could happen.
Exactly. It does cover if you hit an animal. So just be aware of that. That's sometimes not covered by collision.
I think those terms are some that people sometimes cross or get confused, comprehensive, collision, because they sound the same. They're both long C words. But they generally come in a package, right?
Usually, most companies offer them together, and there's a deductible usually, either a $500 or $1,000 deductible.
So you set that, and that helps determine how much you'll pay monthly, but also what happens after an accident.
Yes. So make sure that deductible that you set is something that you feel comfortable paying if you had an accident tomorrow.
And we talked about cost a little bit, but when you get into beyond liability, into comp and collision and things like that, you are talking about higher costs for yourself.
Yes, it's more coverage, so it is more cost. But if you have a lien holder, they might require you to have that, so you probably want to budget that. And also, if you're in an accident tomorrow, if you can't pay to replace your car, probably should think about having collision and comprehensive on your policy.
Whether or not you're still paying on the car, if you can't afford to replace it, you might want to add that on to your monthly budget.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's a little bit about comp and collision and the cost increases there. Are there other kinds of coverage that you might be offered when you start your shopping for auto insurance?
Yeah, there's a few others. So first of all, we know that 12% of the cars out there on the highway actually don't have liability insurance. So if they hit you, there might not be any coverage for your injuries or your car.
That's an uncovered or uninsured driver.
Uninsured driver. So it's uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage is the name of it. Definitely recommend that if you're injured, that pays for you and your passengers. It also pays to fix your car.
Now, what's the difference between uninsured and underinsured? Is that about the limits again?
Yeah, so it's about the limits again. It's if someone is obviously uninsured if they have no insurance.
Right.
If they're
Makes sense.
underinsured, maybe they just have that 30, 60, 25 that we talked about, and that's not enough to cover your full amount of damages. So
that person has their legal responsibility covered, but you're still not made whole, so you might want to add a little coverage on top of that.
Exactly, yes.
Other things that they might encounter when they're shopping for insurance, specialty items, or
There's a few other optional coverages. So there's medical payments and personal injury protection that covers you and your passengers for your medical payments, like it says. Personal injuries.
Where does that come into play? Is that during the uninsured driver, or is that just medical not covered with your regular insurance and your comp and collision?
So that's, yeah, it's not covered under your comp and collision, but that's covered. That covers even if you're at fault, if you're not at fault, either way, it's just a little bit of medical payments coverage for you and your passengers.
Okay. And so those are some things that you can consider, lots of different items. Again, liability is what the law requires of you, but if you want to raise those coverages, you may have to pay more, but again, you may need that coverage. So think about those kind of things. Like Nicole said at the beginning, you can't just go on the bottom line because there are situations where you might want that coverage. So if you want to learn more about auto insurance, you can visit our website. It's tdi.texas.gov. Just click on the Consumer tab right at the first homepage, and then after that you'll click on the little car, and you'll see other videos and short articles where you can learn about some of the things that we covered. If you have a specific question about your situation or your auto coverage, call our helpline. That's 1-800-252-3439, and you can ask one of our specialists a question about that coverage. So that's it for today. For Nicole Beal, I'm Ben Gonzalez. This is TDI.